So, as Paul Harvey used to say, now for the rest of the story, part 2 of the keys to world domination. Hello, everybody. My name is Mauricio Garcia. Welcome to another episode of the Conquistador Podcast. As you know, this is always the show that we do with my friend, mentor, and partner, Mr. Hubert Humphrey, to whom I salute. As always, Hubert, how are you today?
I'm doing great. I love you bringing up Paul Harvey. That's a blast from the past, and that's really what we're doing here today, giving you the rest of that keys to world domination, building these giant super teams. We're going to give you that rest of the story that we left off yesterday.
Absolutely, that another piece of the great puzzle that I hope everybody is really studying this podcast and putting all these things together. It makes such a huge difference in your life. I can tell you by personal experience. So one of the points that we couldn't cover yesterday was point number 6, which is Hubert couldn't live with being average and ordinary. And let me just open a parenthesis because there's a lot of people who are content. But Hubert, he couldn't live with being average and ordinary. He didn't just want to be number one. He needed to be number one. And I understand not everybody feels that way.
Well, most everybody's got somewhere down in their life at some point in time. It may have got snuffed out along the way, but there's a light that flickers. There's like a pilot light in a water heater or something in a stove or something. We all have that little pilot light, and sometimes it gets snuffed out. Sometimes it gets put out. Sometimes it gets relit. Sometimes it stays at a low flame. It never gets, but it's there. It's in every one of us, and yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Now that I just want to take that back, and I want to take that back because I just assumed I could be completely wrong. I want to be somebody. I want to be significant. I want to be a hero for my children. I want to be good for my wife. You know, I want to be somebody. So who am I to say that not everybody wants to be number one out there? I could be completely wrong.
Well, no.
Or maybe at some point.
You're absolutely right on what you're saying. Very few people's pilot light or their lights they're going to put enough fuel and oxygen and keep it enough until it becomes an obsession. It's like water. You take water out there in a little pot of water, and just, you know, it's at room temperature. The stove's not on. It's just at room temperature. It's just lukewarm water, but it's doable. You can do something. You can wash with it. You can do a few things with that water. In fact, if you were to go freeze that water and run it from room temperature down to 32 degrees Fahrenheit, guess what? It'll freeze, and now you got some more water. You got ice. You got a different. You got frozen ice that you can do something, But if you really want it to really transform in a different kind of way, you got to turn that heat up. You got to turn the stove on. Temperature's got to be put to it. And most people in our lives, if we're lucky enough, we'll go through a process. We got mentors and we got things that it can make us our temperature increase, the heat. And if we ever get it to where it becomes that 212 degrees and it becomes steam. It's a whole different. It's no longer water now.
Changes the world. Yep.
It changes the world. It's powerful, and that's what we as like. Most people, unfortunately, don't get there. But it's not that they couldn't. It's that they don't know all the pieces to the puzzle.
But
they're not aligned with somebody. No, they don't know that. That's why people like us that are selling dreams. That's what we're doing. We're selling dreams to people who didn't even know a dream existed. They didn't know that there was a way for people like them to. It's all right to dream again, to re-crank up the dream machine. Most people out there are kind of their dream machines shut off, or it's dormant, or they've become dream dead, or they're in a dream coma. Whatever phrase you want to say. Somebody's got to go out there and rekindle that and resurrect it and renew it and shock them. And that's what guys like us that are running a dream-selling machine. The rest of the industry selling insurance. We're selling dreams. That's what separates us and gets these people going, and we give them an opportunity where I know one thing. I wanted to be, just like you said you wanted to be somebody. I don't know when I was a little fella, I was an imaginative little thing, and I was always giving the teachers fits because I was always asking questions and this, that, and the other. I don't know, it's just something about me and my parents in their own way, and the people I was around, people at church. There was enough of it, and I had my grandmother. When I was just a little kid, look, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, somehow or another, she spoiled me and made me think you got to understand, she had 10 children, and she had probably 50, 60 grandchildren. I mean, it's a monstrous group of children back those days. Yeah. But she made me feel like I was the most special fella in the world, and I didn't know no better. And I grew up thinking that, man, I could be whatever I wanted to be, and didn't even know what it was. And only when I became an adult and kind of interrupted my education at Georgia Tech for this little summer job, married, my wife pregnant, and all of a sudden I get trapped in that little job, and I don't go back and pursue my education and keep going. And I wake up 4 years later, and I said, what has happened to me? Only in that 4-year period of time did my dream machine go dormant. Now, I didn't know where I was going when I was a teenager, but I was dreaming. And today I call it the Alexander Complex. That means I just can't live with myself there. I just can't, I just can't. They say you live in the grip of a vision, and you can no more let go of that vision, and you can stop breathing. And that's sort of, I never heard of the Alexander Complex until many years later, but I found out that that's what I had. I had the beginnings of this success disease, and it's kept me going. That's one reason why I just stay at this thing, is because I was one of those so fortunate few to keep my dreaming going, and I was able to dream the next dream. And then I learned how to have a dream habit. I kept getting a new dream and a new dream, and I've just made up my mind. I don't want to hesitate very much. I don't care what goes on. Even when I sold my second company to Aegon and had a big long non-compete for over 10 years, I still stayed. I made sure I stayed in a business, even though I couldn't be in the insurance business. I could be in other business. So I created mortgage businesses and an RIA. It used my system. It kept my muscles going. It kept building teams. It kept myself out there, and knowing that at some point in time, I'm going to dream a bigger dream and go finish what I started in the insurance business on the next phase. And here I am. I'm just. And now we got some exciting announcements that'll be coming up in the next 3 or 4 or 5 months. It's just going to revolutionize things even bigger. So it's that wanting to be somebody, and that's what we got to do for people. You can't sell a dream if you don't have a dream. You can't bring a nightmare to the door. You're trying to sell somebody a dream. You got to bring your dream demonstrator, your own personal dream, and you can't. If you hadn't got a fire, if your torch is not lit, you can't come light my torch, and that's why you got to have this desire. Being this average and ordinaryism is what we're all born with the potential to be something great, because God didn't make anything but perfect things. Mm-hmm. But he created a sort of to equalize this thing and make it a test. It's we all kind of have an average and ordinary system as our default system, and it's for us to overcome it, and we do that by dreaming and stretching our vision and moving, and that's what we got to do.
I want to move on to number 7, but I can't. I need to stay on number 6 still, because you say Hubert couldn't live with being average and ordinary. Is that a disease that you were born with, this Alexander Complex disease? Because obviously, if you can't...
It's terminal. It's fatal. It's a life sentence. If you get it to that temperature, if it gets past 212 and even higher, first of all, you'll love it. It's not a punishment. You'll love it, because it to me, when I look back and I leave here, I'll leave here as an imperfect person who probably got a lot of things I could have done better. But the one thing is that it wasn't because I didn't try. You know, I didn't have this desire, this quest to do more, and I don't mean just into making of money, just into acquiring of money. I've already done all the money things.
Yeah, people could misunderstand that. That's not what we're talking about here. This money is the byproduct, right?
But right now, there's a lot of people out there. They need to get into money phase.
Well, absolutely.
You need to make that money, But ultimately, if you're talking about, some people want to make the money, they want to retire, don't want to do anything else and go away and just do whatever. And if that's your dream, man, we've got a plan for you. You can. In fact, we're going to be announcing soon this big partner program where you come in here, get yourself up to a level, pretty big level. We got to wait for them buy that deal, make you a partner, give you some stock in the bigger thing, and then you give you 4, 5, 6 multiples of your income, and you're sitting over there with a big payday. If you want to go retire, great. But if you want to keep going, great. So whatever you want to do in life, but I'm more important than these people knowing what it takes to get them from where they're at now and get them started and get them launched into a new world. Now, for people that are already out there at a high level and they just want to how do I re-crank it again and go to a much higher level, that's probably a little deeper dive on another show about this same subject. This subject has varying degrees of understanding to it, but to move people from where they are in their current life to doing something better, they need to realize that they got to get this hunger up. They got to get their dream machine back going again.
Yeah.
That's what I'm pointing out.
You can do it. You can get your hunger up by, you just mentioned it. You had this new dream. New dream all the time kept you, with this, at least feeding the Alexander complex.
Mm-hmm, that's right.
All right.
And one thing, I kept my vision stretched. You can't stretch your own vision, but you can make a decision to hang around people and go to do things that can stretch your vision. And luckily, I wanted to be somebody, and I knew I didn't know how to be nobody, and I wanted to be around. And I got right mentors and coaches and people and things, and it happened to be a lot of the right ingredients that caused me to. All of a sudden, I could see a little bit bigger. Then I could see myself a little bigger. Because ultimately, if an image doesn't eventually get in your heart and mind of you actually in possession of something you're looking for, or you can't achieve that little something, it's not going to drive you to it. Then when you do that, you dare to dream a bigger dream. Then you actually see a picture. That's me. That's Hubert Humphrey. I'm driving that car. I'm living in that house, and you can repeat it. The next thing you know, you're gonna go after it. Then when you see, well, I can have a big team. I can make this. I could get in that club. I could make $1 million. But you had to. It's got to get to the point where the image comes up in your mind and your heart, and you can see it. That it's been painted on the mural of your heart and mind. And that's what this means. It's not some I had a dream one night and I'm gonna be no. It's an energy force that gets inside of you that finally forces you to use this great thing, your imaging, your vision machines tied between your heart, between your mind and your emotional center, your heart, and it gets emotionalized. These thoughts get electrified, and it's like a projector. You go hook this cord into this thing, and boom, an image pops up on the screen. That's sort of what you're doing in your life here.
Very good. That's good for number 6. Let's get to number 7 here. Hubert mastered a system for national expansion. And I elaborate more. It's just 3 ways Hubert expanded his business. Can you take it from there?
Yeah. Well, what I did is once you got this perfectly running model, which is what Ray Kroc did in Oak Brook, Illinois, up there close to where you live. He once he bought the rights to it from the 2 McDonald brothers out of San Bernardino, took their little beginning model of McDonald's, and he took it and revolutionized it. He goes and creates a prototype, a perfectly running model, and so everybody that he's going to go out and invite to become an entrepreneur and invest their money into his franchise, he wanted them to see that he had a model that he wanted them to copy. McDonald's offering franchises to franchisees was nothing but having you come copy his model. He didn't want people coming and investing money and creating anything. Entrepreneurs who go to franchises don't need to create anything. They copy. And you're paid to imitate, not create. And in our business, you're paid to copy or imitate, not create. Creative people, that's wonderful. We love you. Go create somewhere else and somebody will give you a job and pay you a salary. You get over here, you want to succeed in our business, you better be a great copier. And the system makes you copy. The system is like you become a human Xerox machine. You just keep copying good stuff, and it compounds into great success. And that's what I did there. So I I had a strong, all these things we talked about yesterday about, big base, had a big R&D factory, and I produced a bunch of first generations who did it. And out of that, I have found 6, 7, 8 really superstars that were thinking like Hubert, doing that thing at all levels, and was that master builder. So with a high numbers mentality. Well, now that's what I'm doing. So now, the first thing that I did to be a do-it-first leader when I was in Macon, Georgia, and I'd finally after all these years of looking and searching and trying and different things and Amway and different things, learning things. I learned a lot. Didn't make a lot of money, but boy, I learned a lot. And then all of a sudden, this A.L. Williams thing is being born. Just an art with 30 people or so, and I could see what he had. And I went and took my knowledge of this system that I had learned, what became my leadership format system, and I was able to bring that over into his platform with his great crusading product and concepts. And I had the delivery system with this recruiting and building system, plug that baby in there, and I did it. So I went and proved that it worked for about a year and a half. Then I uprooted. Step number one is I uprooted myself and transplanted myself to Denver. So I took myself out of the potted plant and repotted myself. That's the old Chinese proverb that before anything can really grow, it has to be repotted into a more fertile field. Mm-hmm. You can't just sit there in that same place. So I was repotted into Denver. I willingly went there and transplanted myself to that new area. So now all of a sudden, I got out of my little comfort. I'm Hubert Humphrey from Macon, Georgia. Lived there, born and raised there. I'm in a nest, and I spoke a certain way, thought a certain way, did everything a certain way. But now when I'm uprooted and I'm in Denver, it's like I could have gone to Mars and it would have been a similar experience because everything's different. I go out there now. I got to meet new friends. I got to do things different. It's up to me now. I got to really work harder, faster. Everything about me. I went through a conversion. It's like a beautiful butterfly. It starts out as a little larva, and then it kind of morphs into what do you call it? A chrysalis. Mm-hmm. It got a little cocoon in it, a little caterpillar, and then it comes out of that, and it eventually goes through the metamorphosis and got beautiful wings and flies away. It's a beautiful butterfly. And from that little larva, that little worm, to a caterpillar, to a butterfly. And that's what happened to me. I went from just a little worm down there, and the next thing you know, I was a pretty decent caterpillar in Macon, and boom, goes to Denver, and I come out of that thing, I'm a butterfly. And I went out and recreated that over and over. So number two was that I raised up leaders out of this base shop, and then satellited them out. And there was not all of them. We built a strong base shop, 15,000 people in 2 years there in Denver, with no social media, no smartphones, no nothing. Mm-hmm. We just built a big giant base shop of great leaders, and out of there, several of them became leaders that still live in Denver. But there was a bunch of them that wanted to be somebody, and that we picked out areas that they were from. And I sent Bill McCord to St. Louis, and Chip Taylor went to Kansas City, and we already had opened up Salt Lake City too, and so I sent Jeff Miles to Fresno, California. I sent Dick Rainwaters to Garden Grove, California. Dave Buckner to Phoenix. Jerry Carroll to Phoenix. And then by that time, Nate Knowles had come over and met some of us in Denver. He went back home to his place in San Jose. He wanted to do it, so we go there and get him going. From him, Rich Staley and all the Swan Wind all came from that little start. So me satelliting, but they were there copying. Jack Linder, who was a referral from my sister, the day before I left Macon to go to Denver, she gives me the name of the Linder family in Austin that she went to church with and grew up with. And so I put his name down. She told me all about him. I meet him a month later, and it didn't take but 2 or 3 weeks. He quits a 20-year job making $100,000 a year with Purina Chow to go back, because he's a cowboy. He wanted to get back to Texas, and he opened up Texas. So, but they all went back. They all had a little prototype of the kind of little office layout I had in Denver. I didn't have financial services offices like most people. I had centers. I had motivational leadership centers where they would come in. they'd come in, and in the daytime, everybody could come in and use the rooms and interview people, talk to people. We'd have little meetings during the day, big 3 times a week, Tuesday night, Thursday night, and Saturday morning. We'd have big meetings where all these people would bring prospects. We called them, back then we called business presentations. Now we call them BOPs, business opportunity presentations. And they'd pour these people in there, and we'd process it. And then the leaders would we just ran it as a big giant machine. I didn't have a bunch of offices where all these guys, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys, had offices with potted plants and their pictures on the wall. And so when new people came into the business, they said, "Oh, gee, the opportunity's gone. Everybody's got an office." I didn't ever want that kind of feeling. I wanted them to come in. The center was your office, and you built your business on the fly. And if you ever wanted to go, then I wanted you to go build a center one day. And those guys would build a center, and that's what caused it to grow.
Mm-hmm.
It stayed viral. And then of course number 3 is I found those strong leaders in the other. See, not only did I grow them myself in my own base shop, I satellited them out to go and copy our base shop, and also we found people at distances. Jim Bingham down in Springfield, Missouri, and Nate Knowles over there in California, and several other places. They would come. They would fly into me. They'd come in there 2 and 3 times to see how we ran our meetings. It was like all these franchisees going to Oak Brook, Illinois, to see this hamburger. This McDonald's is still up there, and it'd go through Hamburger U. Then they'd go back home. So I did all those things. I built it in my shop. I satellited them out, and I had people at a distance that were attracted to us to come see my shop. It was all off of a master copy, and of course that you want to jump there real quickly to number 8, which.
I want to point out before you get on to number 8, and sorry for interrupting you, is just that on top of this whole thing, I'll repeat again for people to hear this, is that this whole thing is supported by a system. A lot of entrepreneurs, sometimes we go into business and we're just good at doing something, and we think that that's going to be enough to really grow something, to go from local to maybe statewide, nationwide. Probably not going to do it unless you systematize, or maybe, put in other words, have a system, which is not the same thing to say system type. Have a system whereby doing things, because that's, this is just what you're covering here is part of the psychology of a much bigger system.
Well, see, McDonald's, his was the business franchise format system. You went up there and look at what he was doing. This is the system how I run my McDonald's up here. You go wherever you open up your franchise, you follow this system, and it'll work just as good as this one. And they went back and they did it in Macon or wherever. You can go to London and there's a McDonald's. The system is transferable. It's not one big system. It stays in one place. It's a portable system that everybody. It's just a way of doing things. It's not. It's the system is not a thing. It's a new set of business habits that you're doing and replicating in other people over and over and over again. Is what you got to do. And of course the thing that kept driving it was that number 8 there, where I constantly set goals of great growth for myself and for my leaders. And a lot of times what I did is I did something called possibility projections. That was just me. That was just me being able to impose a bigger set of goals on them. And I would tell them, I said, if I was you, and knowing you like I know you, and knowing your team like I know it, if I was you, this would be the goals that I'd be setting if I was you. Now, you're going to do what you want to do, but this is what I would do. I can see your team having this many recruits a month, this many sales a month, this many promotions to RMD a month, this much cash flow, this much. I'd send that out to them every month, and I'd list all of them. And I used to have some of them call me back up and say, Hubert, where did you come up with these numbers? I'll never forget Monty Home one time called me midnight one night, said, Hubert, I see this list, and I put them all out in a group. So they got Hubert imposing these possibility projections out there, and it looked like it was stretching. And he said, well, Hubert, why did you put these goals out there for me like that and all? I said, whoa. He said, man, I just don't see myself doing that. I think he was worried if he didn't hit him, he was going to get embarrassed by. We didn't try to embarrass anybody. So I said, wait a minute, Monty. Let's get a piece of paper. Let me just check on it right quick. I'll check my numbers. all right, and he reminded me what the numbers I'd given him, where I said, all right, Monty, let's go down his straight line. Give me the name of all your frontline legs. He goes, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. We list all the names. I said, now, Monty, you tell me yourself, you know them, about how many recruits is it possible for them to do in the next 30 days, about how many sales, you know where they're at, about what they can do. You know what kind of job you've done with them. You know what you're going to do with them. About what, and then, all right, let's go to the next one. Let's go next. And I'd let him tell me, and we went down through every one of his legs, and then we kind of added it up, and guess what? It almost always was almost what I projected. It's just that he wouldn't have done that on his own, so I did it for him and made him reverse engineer to it. And it was a new set of success habits imposed on it's just leadership, saving people from themselves.
It's kind of putting that new dream in them. What can you accomplish? Because sometimes we just fail doing it. If left to our own devices, with our limited beliefs, we don't seem to be able to expand our own vision. So leadership is about that.
Look at the millions of entrepreneurs out there that have started businesses where 95% of them failed, and even the ones that stay around. They're running stores and everything, and they never get.
It's not real business,
and they never get. They just got a commission job is what they've got, and since they don't know they don't have any way of expanding it, and they can't. If some small entrepreneurs who get a little brave, and they run out and borrow some money or get some investors, they jump out and say, I'm going to expand this store into 5 more stores, and they'll run out and start to do something like that. And now they've gone from the water's safe harbor, they're out into the water, and now they're moving into the deep water, and they don't have enough money and enough success to get on across the ocean to the other shore, and they don't have enough to get back, and they're stranded and they go down because they overreached. So it's a tough situation. You either stay small, and that's a punishment, but you can make a good living out of it. But it's a lot of there's a fine line. I always talk about this fine line.
Yeah.
There's a fine line between a business being the lowest paying hard work you'll ever do, or being the highest paying easy work you'll ever do. And it's what it is? It's having a system that works that you can follow and you can transport and duplicate in other people. That's the fine line.
I love what you just said there, and I love it so much to kind of end it there, because the system sometimes to do a certain job is really about the tool that you're using to do the job. And I would say there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there who are trying to do a certain job, growing a business with a wrong system, using the wrong tool. So it could be a very painful life, a very painful experience. And this thing that you just said in the end, we can tie it right into the Hegemon Group International opportunity, because if there is a way to go in business where it can be easy or easier, a lot easier, because there's a system involved, because there's the original architect of the system in the game teaching it, is this opportunity that I want to talk to you about, what happens to be the sponsor to this podcast, which is Hegemon Group International. So,
hey, Mauricio, before you, this little tagline at the bottom, this little ending line, kind of wraps everything these last 2 podcasts have said. Mm-hmm. Says to the leaders who build big RMD base shop factories and keep producing strong first generation RMDs or leaders, go the greatest honors and the greatest rewards. In other words, if you follow this model over and over and over again, it compounds into the greatest success. You win the game. You win the money game. You win the race for the outlets and success.
So I want to invite everybody to go back, listen to yesterday's podcast, and make a note of those 8 key points to world domination, because these are the keys that Hubert used to build monstrous companies, build monstrous teams, and just really create a lot of wealth for people out there and everybody involved. And Thank you, Hubert, as always. But I do want to remind everybody, before we actually wrap it up, to go to Hegemon Group International Opportunity, which is hgiopportunity.com. Actually, that is the website I want you to check out, hgiopportunity.com. What you're going to find there is a presentation about what is the HGI opportunity and why that is the best opportunity in America today. So if you're looking for a vehicle that can take you from where you are now to where you really want to be, you need to get involved with Hegemon Group International, hgiopportunity.com. Thank you so much, everybody, for staying tuned, for tuning into this podcast. And if you are listening on YouTube, make sure to comment, make sure to subscribe and share. And if you're listening to us on any of the podcast platforms out there, make sure to share to the people, or share with the people that you care about the most, people that are in business who are trying to get to that next level. And to you, Hubert, as always, thank you so much for adding all the value here every single day. Can't wait for next week where we have another opportunity to do a bunch of these new podcasts for the people who are trying to be successful in business. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Look forward to seeing everybody at the top.
Bye-bye.
Warning, this podcast may change the way you think about business, entrepreneurship, and money forever. The Conquistador Podcast was created for dreamers, entrepreneurs, and leaders who want to conquer their future. To be an epic entrepreneur, you must adopt the right mental paradigms as well as master the art of selling, marketing, and finance.